Picture this, the mid-1700s. 13 colonies, nestled along the eastern coast of a vast, untamed continent, thousands of miles from their ruling crown in Great Britain. For generations, they had carved out a life here, building towns, raising families, and developing a unique identity. But a storm was gathering, a tempest of discontent that would soon erupt into a revolution and forge a new nation. It all began with a simple yet powerful idea: fairness. After the costly 7 Years' War, known in America as the French and Indian War, Britain was deep in debt. To refill its coffers, Parliament looked to the colonies, imposing a series of taxes: the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts. To the British, it seemed reasonable. They had protected the colonies, so the colonies should help pay for that protection. But to the colonists, it was an outrage. These taxes were levied without their consent, without a single colonial representative in the British Parliament to speak for them. Across the cobblestone streets of Boston, in the bustling ports of Philadelphia, and within the warm glow of taverns from New Hampshire to Georgia, a defiant cry began to echo: no taxation without representation. This wasn't just a catchy slogan, it was the very heart of the conflict. It was a declaration that they were not merely subjects to be commanded, but freeborn Englishmen entitled to the rights their ancestors had fought for. Men like Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry fanned the flames of resistance with fiery speeches and powerful writings, arguing that to be taxed without a voice was a form of tyranny. The tension simmered, then boiled over on a frigid night in December 1773. In Boston Harbor, a group of colonists, disguised as Native Americans, boarded 3 British ships laden with tea. They were protesting the Tea Act, which, while lowering the price of tea, still included the hated tax and gave the British East India Company an unfair monopoly. In a bold act of defiance, they heaved 342 chests of tea into the dark, churning water. The Boston Tea Party was not just about tea. It was a symbolic act, a message to the world that the colonists would not be cowed. Britain's response was swift and severe. They passed what the colonists called the Intolerable Acts, closing Boston Harbor, dissolving the Massachusetts Assembly, and forcing colonists to house British soldiers. Instead of crushing the rebellion, these punitive measures united the colonies in opposition. They saw their shared liberties slipping away. The air grew thick with anticipation. In the spring of 1775, British intelligence learned that colonial militias were stockpiling weapons in the town of Concord. On the night of April 18th, a silversmith and patriot named Paul Revere set out on a legendary midnight ride. Galloping through the darkness, he shouted his urgent warning: "The regulars are coming out." His cry alerted the Minutemen farmers, blacksmiths, and merchants who had pledged to be ready to fight at a minute's notice. As the sun rose on April 19th, the world changed forever. On the village green of Lexington, a small band of colonial militia faced a formidable line of British redcoats. A shot rang out, the shot heard round the world. no one knows for sure who fired it, but it was the spark that ignited the flame of war. The fighting continued to Concord, where, at the North Bridge, the Minutemen forced the British to retreat, harassing them all the way back to Boston. The American Revolution had begun. In the wake of the bloodshed, delegates from the colonies convened in Philadelphia for the Second Continental Congress. They faced a monumental decision: seek reconciliation or fight for full independence. But they chose to fight, to lead their ragtag collection of militias. They appointed a Virginia planter with quiet dignity and military experience from the French and Indian War, George Washington. He took command of the newly formed Continental Army, a force of dedicated but poorly trained and ill-equipped volunteers. The early years of the war were a brutal test of endurance. Washington's army faced a series of defeats. They were pushed out of New York and forced into a desperate retreat across New Jersey. The winter at Valley Forge was the stuff of legend, a crucible of suffering. Soldiers, many without proper shoes or coats, marched through hardship and frost, leaving bloody footprints in the snow. They endured starvation, disease, and the biting cold. Yet, through it all, their spirit did not break. Under Washington's steady leadership and the training of foreign officers like Baron von Steuben, they were forged into a disciplined fighting force. While soldiers fought on the battlefield, another battle was being waged with words and ideas. In the summer of 1776, the Continental Congress made its most audacious move yet. On July 4th, they adopted a document penned primarily by Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence. It was more than just a list of grievances against King George III. It was a profound statement of human rights and the purpose of government. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. With these immortal words, they weren't just seeking to separate from Britain. They were declaring to the world the birth of a new kind of nation, founded on the consent of the governed. As the war raged on, a new symbol of this nascent country appeared. The flag of 13 stars and 13 stripes, representing the United Colonies, rose for the first time. The American victory at the Battle of Saratoga in 1777 proved to be a critical turning point. It was a stunning success that convinced France, a longtime rival of Britain, that the American cause was viable. Eager to weaken its old enemy, France officially recognized the United States and entered the war as its ally, providing crucial naval support, troops, and financial aid. The fight for liberty was now a global conflict. The final act of the war unfolded in the fields of Virginia. In the fall of 1781, General Washington, aided by French ground troops, trapped the main British army under General Cornwallis at Yorktown. Meanwhile, the French Navy blockaded the Chesapeake Bay, cutting off any hope of British retreat or reinforcement by sea. Hemmed in and outnumbered, Cornwallis had no choice. On October 19, 1781, the British Army surrendered. As the Redcoats laid down their arms, their band is said to have played the tune "The World Turned Upside Down." Indeed, it had. The dream of independence was now a reality. The war officially ended with the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783. Great Britain formally recognized the United States of America as a free and independent nation, with its territory stretching from the Atlantic to the Mississippi River. But winning the war was only half the battle. Now they had to build a country. The first government, under the Articles of Confederation, proved too weak to manage the new nation's affairs. So the leaders met once more. Amid candlelight and hope, they drafted the Constitution, a revolutionary blueprint for a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. In 1789, the man who had led them through the darkest days of the war was unanimously elected to lead them in peace. George Washington became the first president of the United States. His inauguration marked the final, crucial step in this incredible journey. A republic was born, not from the lineage of kings or the decree of an empire, but upon the promise of freedom and the sacrifice of those who dared to fight for it. The American experiment had begun. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through the dawn of a nation. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more pivotal moments in history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next one.